Hey. Time for another Out of This World story from rSpace. Nobody keeps a fully charged mystery phone on Do Not Disturb to coordinate Tupperware swaps. Today on rSpace, something's gone rotten, and it's OP's marriage. Found cheating wife's secret phone. She told her parents I was lying, so I showed them the proof. I'm looking for advice on how to handle a situation with my wife and her phone. Normally, I'm the type of guy who likes to communicate and hashtag things out right away, but I don't think that's going to work in this situation. I, 31 male, recently discovered that my wife, Carrie, 29 female, has a second phone. I knew nothing about it. I've never seen it before, and she's never said anything to indicate that she has another phone. I don't know what's on it because I haven't been able to access it yet. Now, the full story. We've been together for 6 years and married for 4 of them. I never cheated on her once, and I could have sworn that she was the same. Even now, I'm not entirely convinced that she's having an affair. I haven't noticed a single sign that she's been cheating on me. Maybe she's just really good at hiding it. I mean, she had a second phone. Obviously, that shows that she's pretty dedicated to keeping whatever this is under wraps. I wasn't snooping when I found the phone. I was rearranging the closet. Her stuff was getting out of control and flowing into my side, and I was just trying to restore order. While I was moving some of her bags around, I came across a small old bag that I'd bought for her just a few weeks after we got engaged. I knew she treasured it, but she didn't use it anymore. I didn't blame her, since it was old and kind of outdated. When I picked up the bag, I could feel something moving around inside. I reached into the bag and pulled out her second phone. It was an older, inexpensive model. I had no idea where it could have come from or why she had it. I didn't know what to think about first. I tried to rationalize why she'd have another phone, but every new idea I came up with made less sense than the last one. At first, I thought it might be an old phone she wasn't using anymore, but I was sure I'd never seen her use it before. Then I thought it could be a gift, but that didn't make sense either. The phone wasn't in the box, and she knew I liked to pick out my devices myself. The phone was too old to be a gift. It was hard to accept the only reason she'd have a cheap phone hidden away somewhere. It was pretty much the only reason a spouse would keep a secret phone. Checking what was on the phone would have been the most conclusive way to find out what she was up to, but of course, it wasn't that easy. The phone was powered on and charged, which convinced me even more that it was something she was actively using. But it was on Do Not Disturb, and the notifications were hidden on the lock screen. I tried to log in, but I couldn't figure out the passcode. It was pretty much a high-tech brick in my hands. As far as I can tell, I have a few options. Normally, I'd bring the phone to her and ask her to tell me what's on it. I value direct communication, but obviously, I don't think I'm going to get it. Even if she unlocked the phone and showed me it was clean, I'd still have my doubts. I'm also worried that I'll never find out the truth if I go to her too early. She could come up with some story that sounds plausible in the moment and wipe the phone, and then I'd never get the chance to find out the truth. Another option is just to sit on it and wait. Now that I know about the phone, I could just watch her and wait for her to slip up. Maybe I can watch her with it, or notice when she slips away to use it. But that means pretending I didn't find it. And if I don't do a good enough job convincing her that I don't know anything about it, she might get rid of the phone. I liked that idea least of all. It seemed like the biggest risk to me. And my last option is to try and get into this phone somehow. That sounds good on paper, but it's too hard to pull off. I tried to guess the passcode, but I had no luck. I couldn't even figure out where to begin with that. I even considered taking the phone to a repair shop to see if they could bypass the passcode. But I know they won't do that if they can't prove the phone is yours, and I'm not trying to end up in some dicey legal situation over it. So for now, the phone is back in the bag where I found it. I've been acting normal, but my mind is still racing. I can't look at her the same way, and I'm second-guessing everything she says and does. The worst part is how ordinary everything seems. She hasn't changed in any perceivable way. She hasn't turned colder towards me. She hasn't changed her habits. If I hadn't found the phone, I would have sworn our marriage was fine. A part of me still thinks that everything is perfect, and the phone has an innocent explanation. I don't want to blow up my marriage over suspicion, but I can't live in denial. The phone is real. She's been keeping secrets from me. What I need to find out is just how deep the betrayal goes. So here's where I need advice. What's the smart play here? Do I confront her with the phone in hand and demand answers? Or should I sit back and wait to catch her with it? Or do I bank on eventually finding a way to get into the phone before I make my move? Yeah, there's really no innocent hobby that calls for a fully charged, hidden phone on Do Not Disturb. She didn't stash that thing because she's running a surprise puppy adoption ring. If she had a legit reason, she'd have mentioned it ages ago. Update 1. Thanks to everyone who weighed in. Trust me, I read through every single comment and a lot of the advice lined up with what my gut was telling me. Don't confront too early and don't let her know that I'm on to her until I have something concrete. Also, the super helpful advice of getting my finances and documents ready in case I discover the worst. It felt like a betrayal to start prepping for divorce before I was certain she had cheated on me, but I couldn't afford to be sentimental. I had to play it smart. So that's what I did. I left the phone in the purse and I watched her like a hawk. I took note of her movements and recorded everything on a note app in my phone. I mean every single movement. Whenever she was out of my sight, I was recording where she went and how long she spent there. That was how I discovered that she was spending longer in the bathroom than usual. She's always been a fan of long showers, but I realized that she was spending close to an hour at a time in the bathroom, which was unusual. Usually I didn't notice because I was wrapping up some personal work in the home office whenever she was taking a shower. Once I realized that, it became easy to figure out that she was using the phone every evening when she was supposed to be in the shower. My theory was easy to confirm. I just waited until she had her next long shower and checked her bag for the phone. No surprise, it wasn't there. Now I knew she was using the phone at that very moment. That felt like the best opportunity I could possibly have. I could catch her red-handed, and if I was lucky, I'd be able to get the phone from her before she unlocked it. The best line of action would be to barge into the bathroom and hopefully get the phone from her before she could react. But I couldn't count on her leaving the bathroom door unlocked. I decided I would test the door first, and if it was locked, I'd just wait to catch her with the phone when she was leaving the bathroom. I got lucky though. When I tried the door handle, it turned easily. The door was unlocked. She probably thought I was still busy on the other side of the house. Like usual. I didn't give myself time to think about it or second guess myself. As she'd heard me testing the door, she could already be hiding the evidence. I threw the door open and saw her sitting on the toilet, fully clothed, with the second phone in her hand. She froze wide-eyed like a deer in headlights. I took 2 huge steps and snatched the phone away from her before she could do anything. As soon as she processed what had happened, she screamed and asked me what I was doing. She nearly lunged at me to get the phone, but I backstepped out of her reach. I held up the phone, with my thumb on the screen to keep it from locking me out. I asked her if she wanted to explain what she was doing with a secret phone. Her response, "It's my work phone, you idiot." I didn't let her throw me off. If I hadn't thought about things so thoroughly before that point, it might have caught me off guard, because she sounded so sincere as she said it. I asked her if I would only find work messages if I went through the phone. She said I couldn't do that because it contained sensitive work stuff. I asked her if she wanted to change her answer, but she insisted that it was a work phone that I couldn't go through. I wanted to ask why she was taking work messages hidden on the toilet, but I didn't bother. The phone was in my hands, so we'd find out the truth soon enough. I didn't say a word. I just backed out of the bathroom, watching her carefully to make sure she wouldn't try to get the phone from me. She followed me the whole way until I was in the living room. I started swiping wordlessly through the phone. I didn't care about arguing with her. I just wanted to find out the truth. She was restless, like she was contemplating jumping at me and trying to wrestle the phone out of my hands. It didn't take long for me to find the truth. Right away, her work phone story didn't hold up. There was a single contact on the phone, saved as K. The messages weren't remotely professional. It was a mix of flirting, sexting, and conversations that left no room for doubt. It had been going on for months, too, almost every day. I just looked at her and asked if this was work. She sat down and put her head in her hands, silent for almost a full minute. And then she said it wasn't what it looked like. She said she'd just been talking to him for companionship, and they'd never done anything. It seemed like she was telling the truth about that. She'd send some messages talking about how much she looked forward to meeting him. That didn't make things any better, though. She was cheating on me with a man she'd never even met. I kept skimming through the messages and asked her who K was. After saying he was no one a few times, she admitted that he was someone she'd met online. He'd slid into her DMs on Instagram, and they'd started talking. Eventually, it escalated into this. She swore that they'd never met in person, and they'd just enjoyed the fantasy of it. She kept telling me that that was all it was. It was just a harmless escape. She never actually wanted to go through with anything. I asked her if she thought that made it better. Whether it was real or not, she'd still cheated on me. She was talking with some random guy from the internet about how much she wanted to be with him. They were sexting. There were even pictures. And then there was all the effort she'd gone through to hide it. A whole second phone. A secret nightly routine. Her harmless fantasy was built on months of lies and planned deception. She started crying after I laid out how I saw it. She said she was sorry and she hadn't meant to lie to me. She just kept it from me because she didn't want to hurt me. I told her I knew that was a weak excuse and I couldn't trust her anymore. She came closer to me and I held up a hand to keep her back. She asked what I was trying to say. I told her I wasn't trying to say anything. I was letting her know that I wanted a divorce. I felt like I was looking at a stranger, and I knew it was impossible for me to forgive her for this. It was difficult for me to admit it to myself, but I knew it would do more harm than good to pretend we could fix this. The whole time, I was taking screenshots on the phone and texting them to my own number. I knew the evidence would disappear the moment I handed the phone back to her. This was my only proof of her affair, and I wasn't about to lose it. When I was done, I put the phone on the coffee table and told her she could have it back. I told her that I wasn't stupid enough to give her a chance to clear her tracks without securing proof first. She went pale, and she seemed to realize that it was really over. I was taking steps to protect myself in the divorce that was coming. She tried to tell me that it was just a fantasy again. She begged for another chance, pressuring to delete all her social media and go to counseling, but I just ignored her. I talked to a divorce lawyer the very next day. Since then, she's moved out of the house and back in with her parents. I made sure to let them and everyone else know exactly why we were splitting up. What really surprised me was a number of people who said I overreacted. A friend of mine actually broke up with his girlfriend because she insisted that what my wife did wasn't cheating. It became a very heated argument, and she absolutely stood her ground that there was no such thing as emotional cheating. If it wasn't physical, it wasn't cheating, according to her. I think he made the right call. It's a short walk from excusing that kind of behavior to actually doing it. Update 2. It was nice to see some sane responses here, after seeing how people I knew in real life had tried to make me feel like I was blowing things out of proportion. She flipped out once she realized I was serious about the divorce. She went from crying and begging to calling me controlling and paranoid. The worst part was that she said I'd ruined our marriage. According to her, it could have been saved, and I'd bailed without putting up a fight. Every time she said that, I'd remind her that I wasn't the one sexting a stranger on a secret phone. Eventually, I stopped answering her calls. The divorce moved quickly once the evidence came into play. I was able to shell out the cash for a good lawyer, and it paid off. She didn't bother asking for alimony. I don't know whether she had a change of heart and started feeling guilty, and I didn't bother to find out. I just took the win. When the dust from the divorce settled, I had the house, and she was still with her parents, since she wouldn't be able to keep up with the payments. I had to pay her some money to settle her claim to the house. I wasn't thrilled about that, but I didn't want to lose the house either. It turned out that the divorce really messed with her, and whenever she wasn't at work, she was moping around the house. I only found out about that because her parents were concerned and gave me a call. Her parents were good people, and they had both been devastated to hear that we were getting a divorce. When her dad called, he told me that he hadn't wanted to get too involved in our issues, but he was worried about his daughter. He told me she was just a shadow of herself. She spent most of her time keeping to herself and wouldn't talk to them much. She opened up to her mom a few times, and apparently I'd exaggerated the events that ended our relationship. According to her, I'd gotten mad because she'd made a friend on the internet. She admitted that things had turned slightly romantic, but she'd caught herself before that happened. He said he knew it was my decision, but he just wanted to encourage me to rethink my decision and give her a chance. I almost laughed. I couldn't believe she'd told such a bold lie. I knew it wasn't her dad's fault that he believed his daughter, so I didn't take it out on him. I just explained to him that he'd been lied to and that she'd had a talent for doing that. Then I sent him some of the screenshots. There were too many for me to expect him to go through, so I just picked the ones that had the most impact. The messages where he called her by name, and the ones where she expressed her desire to finally meet up and be together with him. I also sent the most recent messages to prove that she hasn't cut things off until I'd caught her. He was shocked, but he didn't argue with the evidence. When the disbelief disappeared, he became angry. He apologized to me and said he wouldn't have called to ask me to work things out if he'd known the truth. I told him that I fully understood. It wasn't his fault that his daughter had chosen to lie to him too. Things got worse for her from there. My ex called me herself, crying her eyes out. She asked me how much more I wanted to ruin her life. She told me that her dad had barged into her room as soon as he got off the phone with me and went off on her for lying to him and her mom. It turned into a huge fight between them. It ended with Carrie announcing that she was moving out. Her parents didn't stop her, and she ended up moving in with her sister. I thought about telling her sister the truth of the affair too, but her dad had already beaten me to that. Now Carrie was living with a sister who saw her for the liar she was and didn't trust a word out of her mouth. It was so bad that she ended her story by asking if she could have a room to stay in. She promised that she would stay out of my way during the day, and I wouldn't even know she was in the house. I told her that was never going to happen. I'd just spent thousands of dollars getting her out of the house, and I wasn't planning to let her back in there. She didn't call me back after that. Asking if she could live with me must have been humiliating for her, and I don't think she's ready to pull herself through that again. Something about ending that call felt final for me. I don't think I'll be hearing from her again for a while. She's hit bottom, and she's got nowhere to turn. Maybe she'll learn her lesson from this. Maybe not. All I know is that she's someone else's problem now. Anyone who tries to minimize months of sexting, a burner phone, and planned meetups as just a friend is either delusional or hoping you are. The people saying you overreacted are showing their own red flags. Emotional cheating isn't some victimless crime, it's a deliberate breach of trust. And Carrie asking to move back in after lying to everyone? You don't owe her a soft place to land. She chose to set her own life on fire. Now she gets to sit with that. What would you do in this situation? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time.